Hey there everybody, and today I'm going to take a look at the new Space Synthesizer coming out in Audiotool. I'm really excited for Space. It uses a new algorithm for generating its sounds called Wavetable, which is really good at creating a lot of glassy and metallic tones. So today I'm just going to go through all the basic stuff on Space and how you use it and what all the controls do and whatnot. So the main section we're going to start with here is this part right here, which is basically your quote oscillators. They're not oscillators, but they're kind of the same idea where it just shapes the general idea of your sound. So the easiest way just to get some random sounds is to, well, hit randomize. I actually find myself doing this a lot. It's a really easy way just to get like quickly through some different tones. A lot of them sound very like sine wavy, kinda, but yeah, just hit randomize and tweak the envelope a little here. Very easy to get a quick and dirty sound. So I'm just gonna reset the preset here. These controls underneath control your sound. It's not super important to know like exactly what these are all doing. If you just play around with them a little, like, you'll get an idea of what kind of sound they have when you move them. And it's also kind of fun just to experiment. I'm just going to reset here. So there's that, but what's interesting is they actually have two sounds and you can mix between them. So if I hit sound B over here, I'm just gonna, you can hear we have a sound B and a sound A. Now down here we have a section called AB mix, and this lets you blend between sound A and sound B. So the main non-mix just lets you play sound A or sound B. You can either use it to play one or the other, or put it somewhere in the middle to have sort of like a blended sound. But what is interesting is you have a variety of modulation sources here. Or not modulation sources, but modulation destinations. So you have an extra mod envelope, which can let you use an envelope to automate it. I'll let you hear what that sounds like. You can hear the envelope is triggering it, and you can also assign it to LFO, which is pretty sweet. And we have velocity, which is how hard you press the note, or otherwise the volume of the note. I can't really show you that with the typing keyboard. By the way, if you want the typing keyboard, you just right-click a synthesizer and go to show software keyboard, and you can either click or just type the letters. Okay, where was I? Yes, we also have key tracking, which lets you mix between A and B, but it plays up the keyboard. Or if we go down here, you get the idea. Okay, so we also have next up here a just sort of basic amplitude envelope section. There is a loop function for if you want to just create like a quick tremolo, which lets you actually, if you're sound designing, that's a trick just to let you use a different LFO source. So say you wanted to have different LFO setting for a vibrato effect or just like a tremolo at the same time. Like you could just use loop for that. And when you do that, sustain kind of acts like a LFO amount. Anyways, and of course sync, which just changes your envelope times from milliseconds to sync to your track. That's all that does. We also have the mod envelope down here, which is assignable to the AB mix, the LFO rate, speed, and amount, tuning for vibrato effects, sort of like stereo left and right. You can set that to the LFO, and also just master volume. You can set that to the LFO and the mod envelope as well. Other sync and loop controls here. And if you click envelopes, this gives you just a place to modify the curve of your attack and decay and release. So that's all that does. I'm just gonna reset here. Woo! Sweet. Sorry about that. The internet just randomly crashed the program, but I'm back here. And where were we? Okay, I just covered the mod envelope, so now we also have a tuning section down here. And what this does is, if you just throw AB mix to 12 o'clock here, or 50%, it lets you, kind of like you would with oscillators on the PULV, you can detune the two synthesizers. No, sorry, not synthesizers. You could detune the two sounds, sound A and sound B. For example, here, let's just back it up here. We're going to copy our sound A to our sound B. Set it to half. There you go. So that's just by an octave, or for example, we could do an interval. Or we could just do a few cents just to do like a wider detune. Moving on, we have the master tune. And that is modulatable by the mod envelope or the LFO. I'll just show you that quickly. Again, if you throw on loop for the envelope here, you can just use it to save an LFO routing to create like a vibrato. You can also push the settings really low to create some like weird FM stuff. Anyways, that's what loop does. And of course, we also have just plain LFO. If you want to use that. That's what that does. Moving on, we have some stereo effects here. Shifty tune. What that does is the more you move it to the left, the more it sort of collapses the left and right sound into just mono. The right-hand side, much like Tune A and Tune B, lets you detune, but it also adds a panning effect, and also you don't need both sound A and sound B to do it. For example, you could just slightly detune here, or oops, that's wrong number. You could just slightly detune here. Or you could do an octave, or again a fifth. Alright, the knob to the right of that is pan LFO. That's just using the LFO to control the pan left and right. Let's move on to the LFO section here. You've got standard stuff, just wave select, sine, triangle, saw, square, random. We got a rate knob, sync to tempo, or in milliseconds. Trigger just makes it either free running or start when you press a key. But what's interesting that's not on any other Audiotool synths is there's a routing for the mod envelope to control the LFO rate. So for example, if I turn LFO to vibrato effect here, I can modulate that speed with the mod envelope. You can also do the same for amount. Yeah, so that's all that does. Phase just lets you start the LFO at a different point in the waveform. So for example, square, or no, square isn't a bad example. For example, you could use a triangle, and then instead of immediately ramping up like here, you could use it to ramp down by just changing the phase to the middle. Okay, yeah. We have, let's turn off this pitch bending. We have portamento here, which just slides between notes, standard, mono, legato, and poly settings. If you don't know, mono is just one key at a time. So you can't play more than one key at once. Poly is multiple keys. And what legato is it's like mono, but it changes the way that the envelopes behave. So if I just turn on my amp envelope here, if we have it set to mono, every time I press a new key while another one is held, you can hear that the envelope re-triggers. But if I switch to legato, it only re-triggers the envelope if you fully let go of the key. So if I hold it, you can hear that the envelope is only triggering once. And if I let go of the keys, then you can hear it re-triggers. That's what legato does. Okay, a couple last things. There's just main volume out here, and we also have an LFO routing for the volume, so you can just make like a tremolo stuff. And again, just a velocity tracking, so that's just how hard you hit the key. And that's pretty much it. Everything else is up to you. I'm really excited about the synth. It's going to add a lot to Audiotool. And it's something that Audiotool has been needing for a long time. I mean, it's just it's cool using Heisenberg to get sort of similar effects, but it's really easy with Space. They make it really easy to create interesting metallic tones and pads and stuff like that. Of course, if you want to see more synths like this, you should head over to the Patreon page for Audiotool and support them, which I'm going to link in the links below. Yeah, which will just help along with their development so they can bring more cool stuff like Space for you. Anyways, I hope you have fun using Space. I know I will. This is Electro signing out.